Hi everyone, I'm JessGOAT.
And I'm Pengu.
And you guys are watching
Beyond the Siege.
That's right, we have a podcast now.
We'll be talking everything esports.
And also interviews.
And game updates.
Plus tournaments, teams, players, devs, etc.
So, everything Rainbow Six?
Damn straight.
And when do we begin?
How about now? Alright guys, welcome to episode 1. My name is JessGOAT. As I'm sure you've already heard, I have Pengu with me, and we are going to be bringing you a very special guest on this very first episode. Hopefully every month we will bring you a special guest, but this one is near and dear to our hearts for a very special reason. Pengu, who have you got for us today?
Someone close to us. Someone that I have shared countless hotel rooms with over many different places in the world, and it is a he. None other than the only three-timer player and as a coach, Fabian Helston.
Alright, well, let's jump into our first topic here. I want to pick you guys' brains about our very first LAN. We obviously got to qualify for the LAN, which was huge, and I heard you weren't necessarily expecting Fabian, but then when we got there, we had pretty good results as well. So talk us through what happened there.
I mean, we qualified. It was kind of a surprise, but at the same time not, because we saw massive steps from the team at the first week. I mean, the bootcamp we attended when we went to Korea, me and Nick, it was just so impressive to see the work ethic and the way that they were willing to pick things up. Usually, and this is probably something I did myself as a player, it's hard to pick things up from a coach because they're not the one on the server. And if you're not on the server, you don't have the same feeling for the game as you do when you're outside of it. Outside, you think a lot more on paper and you think a lot, this should work. But when you're on the server, you'll realize it doesn't. So it's impressive to see that they managed to take both sides of this and put it together to one. Because I don't think we would have seen as big of an improvement arc as we really did as quick as we did. So that's why the expectations probably weren't there. But I think that along the season, we changed our expectations a little bit, like internally, to be that we should be qualifying. Still, we will always put out like the realistic view to the outside, right? Like even if we think we will, we're still going to say we shouldn't, because let's be real, we shouldn't, just because of how short of a time we were with a team. So yeah, the qualifications I think went smoothly. I think obviously we had a bit of issues with pressure during the season itself, especially the best of ones, both against Fear or Fox. I don't know what they call Fearless Foxes. And D+, they're just changing name. Sandbox is my name, what I call them.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. There'll always be Sandbox to me, and maybe the original Cloud9 if we want to go that far. So.
Oh, that's a
Mantis
step
FPS,
back.
you know.
Yeah, we played Mantis FPS. That was a long time ago, though. But yeah, the hiccups were there. Like we suffered from nerves, and we lost those best of ones. Can't even remember if we lost to Sandbox. It doesn't matter. We didn't win the league like in the regular season, but obviously we won in the playoffs. So I'm still happy with the qualifications in the way we did. And honestly, whatever we got during Manchester, anything was just a positive. Anything we won, anything we managed to do. And if we look at the opponents we had, we genuinely played seed 15 in the first game, which was Bleed, obviously should have been the easier game if you look at it from the seeding. Then we played, I think it was 1, 2, 3, and 4, not in that order, but we played 1, 2, 3, and 4 seed in the tournament, and we still managed to beat 2 of them. And also, in my eyes, we did lose to ourselves quite heavily, both to Beast Coast and to FaZe, by losing mentals and being just too weak mentally. So I think we put up a really, really good show, and I think that we could really prove to the world what this team can do if they have the right guidance and just the right way of playing the game, like more comparable to Europe and to Brazil.
Somebody asked me when we first joined PSG Talon, like from a scale of 1 to 10, where would I rate them the first day of bootcamp in Korea, right? And I said 0.5, maybe a 1 at best. Like it was, honestly, it was terrible, right? Like basic stuff like playing a 2 versus 1, a 3 versus 1, etc. They would miss those rounds, they would make massive mistakes and blunders. But where would you rate them from where you started and until now, let's say, after Manchester Majors / EWC qualifier? You can do either roster here in terms of ranking.
You know, when we came, I would put them at like a low tier 3 European side. You know, like the teams that would play in Europe and they would end up last in the Benelux League or something like this. And
Short at Benelux, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that they were the worst region in Europe when we still had tier 3. But yeah, they would be a bottom tier 3 team, I'd say. As you said, all the teamwork was just off. Like in-game leading didn't make sense, and honestly, that's still this around to some certain extent. Both in-game leading part doesn't always make sense. because there can be wrong calls, and I think a lot of this comes down to language barrier.
Yeah.
But I also think that, for example, manpower advantages still can't be played always perfect as we expected. Obviously, statistically tracking, we are making constant improvements. Like if you look at it from when we started out to today, we're always taking step by step by step.
So where are you
Today,
rating yourself? From a low tier 3, 0.5 as Pengu says, where are you now out of 10?
I would say right now we're a mid-table NA, EU, Brazil team with the potential to do upsets.
Ooh.
You know there are those teams that are in the league, but they will never beat the good ones. They
Yes.
just
Yeah.
won't.
Yep.
I would say we have the potential to do that, and that's what makes us stand out. There are those teams that every now and then they will have these really really good games, and I mean we show that against BDS, for example, where either one player will pop off, or we will actually play pretty decent as a team because we could also do that. So I think we're a solid mid-table team in one of the top 3 regions right now, but there are still massive steps to take, and the only people that can really do it is the team by listening and learning and keeping on working, which so far I have not seen them stopping to do. Maybe it's become less and less because they've learned more, which turns into then obviously you can't get everything else in, but we're still far away from what I would just say as a success or as a happiness for myself. Like we have achieved the goal. That's not there yet.
So would you say with the 2 roster changes you made, which I can understand getting Yas from an outside in, right? I'm watching you guys do big brain things and I'm like, Yas makes total sense. If I'm a coaching staff and Yas is free, that makes total sense to me. With the experience, with the gun skill, with everything, yes, get him on board. But then you made another roster change as well. Can you walk us through why you've taken, I mean, Yas makes sense, but why Ruleset? I mean, I'm not too familiar with them, and obviously that's a big shakeup, especially right before EWC.
Ruleset is 18, so he's only played one stage of professional gameplay so far, which is why he's kind of an unknown name. Also in Korea, the talent pool it's super shallow. You don't really have any talent properly outside of what I would consider the top 3. There just isn't much, and the ones that do stand out, they will basically single-handedly carry their team, which Ruleset did. Ruleset was the one-man carry for his team, and what we've done with picking him up is changing roles a bit. We have seen Soldier take a step back to the support, because if we look at the 2 players we've replaced, which is Royboy in the main roster, he's currently the substitute right now, and also JLT that we let go of. Both of them are very silent players that also had a ability to falter under pressure. That was the big thing, is like they really didn't make logical plays when the pressure was on. In combination, of course, with us not thinking that they have what it takes mechanically or maybe game understanding. That's like the main reasons why we would make these changes. Because we taught them, but they didn't pick up as much as the other 3 players, and also they weren't mechanically pulling the numbers, especially during bootcamp. Like during bootcamp, we had some atrocious numbers, and obviously we bootcamped in Poland, which meant we played European teams and Brazilian teams that were in Europe to practice for the major, and it's just numbers that you cannot put up were put up, and then therefore we had to make a combined decision where, okay, we need better stuff from everyone. And Yas makes sense, as you said. I mean, the experience is the main thing for him. He's also a previous in-game leader, which helps with calling. So now we have Mies as the in-game leader with Yas in the front line, because obviously he's more of a flex fragger. So we have 2 callers in the front line, and we have Soldier in the back line who can also call. So now we've spread out our calling, where before we only had calling in the front line, but Roy wasn't able to call a plant setup properly, which meant that we were lacking on that department. Now we have people calling everywhere. That is, in my eyes, the golden way to show up, and like you have someone that's responsible for all areas of the gameplay. So for example, Soldier will be responsible for the last 1 minute setting up, this is the plan I want to make, this is where I need my players.
Yep. I mean,
still plenty of work to do on it.
It seems to work, right? And I know, Pengu, you were watch partying that EWC qualifier game. Do you think it has worked? Because I would be honest, maybe I'm doing a little blasting here of the obs, but I didn't get to see a lot of the new players being observed. Maybe I was just super unlucky, so I actually have kind of missed out. Even though I'm watching the game, I missed out. Do you think, from what you saw, the new players have come in and it's like, yeah, this feels like it is slowly gelling?
I mean, I can also obviously speak from scrims alone, where like there's a big difference, of course, but we can't show you guys scrims. It's just not gonna happen, right? That's like the secret project behind the curtains.
Leaking them
But
actively.
for the EWC qualifier, the first map we played, Border, fantastic. We're thinking, wow, complete upgrade across every area, better roles, better individual players, better teamwork, coordination, communication, execution, amazing. Second map comes from off Bank. We are getting rinsed by an individual player called Rin, who is just running us down 17 kills and just destroying us.
And he was like the only positive player in that team that game. Like he was, it's like you win 7-2 and you're one player positive. Hello.
Yeah, but if you cannot shut down one player with 5 members who are supposed to work together quite effectively, then you're also making mistakes on the other side, of course.
For
But
sure.
kudos to Rin for putting up such a good fight and carrying Bank for them. And then Clubhouse, the third map, was half really good and half really bad. Neither team knew how to attack whatsoever. So you get these 1-5 halves where defense just keeps on winning these absurd rounds. I think that EWC showed a good sign. If you've made 2 roster changes with very little turnaround time, no official matches yet, just scrims, and you're still beating teams like Fearx, who haven't made a roster change, technically. Jax, who they picked up, he's currently getting a visa. He's not in Korea just yet, so they play with Nova, who they played with before. Of course, Damwon, they picked up GLT, but they lost before we had to play them, so that didn't really happen. The fact that we qualified and did so well, I think is a good sign. And now we get to bootcamp, get to go to EWC, get international experience. That's only going to make things better from there, hopefully.
Well, I'm sure Fabian doesn't mind me being a little critical, but the very first thing I said was, imagine making massive roster changes right before EWC quals, and only one Korean team gets to go. So I'm sitting here. This is probably the most critical I've ever been to you, Fabian. I've trusted you through and through. But when I heard that, I was like, you better have the golden, trophy to have going with this, because I just couldn't work out what the decision making was. Obviously, it's worked, but were you going to be okay if you didn't qualify for EWC? Like it's one spot for Korea, that's it. So was it okay
we would have
not
to
to qualify?
be okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we would have had to be, because there were some really big gaps that we really needed to fill up with the right players, and with Yas being available. Also, I'm not going to sleep on Romantic. Like if I sit there and sleep on one of what I see as one of the biggest talents coming up in Korea, because the numbers he's putting up for us and just the fragging ability he's got, like he's a really, really mechanically talented player. I wouldn't say, like, when Kanto came to the scene, everyone was shocked by him. He's not just at that level, but if you look at him, he's like the Korean Kanto. That's what I would put him at. Like, he is that talented at shooting. And when you are that good at shooting, it's hard to say no to him. And I'm not going to sit there and wait with a player I know I'm going to replace sooner or later. Then I'd rather just get it over with and teach him for an additional month and just keep going at it. And I think we did the right choices. We did the right choices, seeing as we qualified on top of that. But also, Romantic played very good for coming into what most people consider the best team in Korea. And he's a complete rookie. Like, he isn't supposed to be top fragger. Nerves should be there a little bit, but I don't see it from him, which is really signs for the good stuff. So I'm very happy, and like, I would have made the same choices 100 out of 100 times if I had to. There would have been no doubt, qualification or not, we would have still made them. It's just everything turned out the way we wanted it to in the end, and nothing would have changed no matter what happened.
Okay. Alrighty, so you were speaking about your new additions. I'm going to bring it up on our beautiful triple screen here so you can see exactly who we're talking about. This is your new gunner coming in. I wanted to check who he played with before, obviously, if there was any quote-unquote experience. You said he was new, he was gun, he's a rookie rather. So he's done a little bit in some of these, but you said he's pretty much completely new to the league, and you're happy with how he's performing under pressure. You're coming into EWC, you've already qualified. When you get there, however, the mans is going to play in one of the biggest tournaments one can play in, and it's going to be his very first rookie season coming in. What do you expect? How am I jumping over to the esports world? I'm going to get there eventually, guys. You guys can keep speaking as I fumble my way through this.
Yeah, so the expectations, again, is just to go to the event and learn. That's what we have to be doing realistically. I mean, we're going up against some of the biggest teams, and I mean, you're showing the Brazilian teams right now, and all of these are mainstay names that have been around forever. But how do you become a mainstay name? Well, you go there. That's how you become one. And then eventually, at one point, you'll pop off. I think that if you don't go in there with any fear and you just go in there playing your own game and you don't focus too much on what your opponent does, then you'll be more than fine. And if you can go up against these names that are the biggest ones in your own country, I mean, if you go up against any one of the guys in Sandbox, I'm just gonna keep calling them that. I don't know. Is it Foxes, Fearless? It doesn't matter.
Fear X.
Fearless
Fear X.
Foxes.
Yeah.
Fear X. Okay, Fear X is it can be then. Sand X. Yeah. If you can go up against them and you can still perform, then why wouldn't you be able to do it against these guys? I mean, he put up good numbers in all 3 of the maps, and that's not something you expect of the rookie. He should have been any out of the other 4 players should have put up the numbers, and we would have been okay. It's okay. Romantic has a rough time. It's his first proper playoffs. I mean, the team he played with before, they were absolutely dog shit.
Yep.
So if you're coming here, you have expectations on you, and he didn't care. He just played his game and he did fine. So for us, expectations. If we make it top 8, we have done way beyond any expectations. Wow. And even if we finish in like we go out round 1 or we go out round 2, that's okay too.
Okay.
Again, this year is all about learning. It will be the same at Montreal. If we make Montreal, I say, then that's where we'll be, and we'll be happy. The big thing I think, but we were looking at when we were changing the players, like we were expecting to take maybe 1-2 steps back to potentially be able to take 5 to 10 steps forward. And that's why you make changes, right? Because you see that there's a higher potential long term than there is to keep just chugging it out with the roster you have right now. I would say that taking 2 steps back that was quite generous. I feel like we almost took 100-meter dash back to reach that completely, because the gap now between the players that we have thought for this long, in comparison to both Yas and Dramatic, obviously Yas has more experience, but he did not understand the meta, not one bit.
Yeah.
And that comes just from Korea being that far behind.
Yeah.
We had to teach them again on how to play, and Yas have caught up. Like Yas started out really roughly. I don't mind talking about it. Like Yas has practice KD and like cost in APAC was like 0.68 KD and like 65% cost. 65% cost is okay, but not good. KD, however, is absolutely terrible. But now he started to like get his overall KD since we started practicing to back to 1, which obviously means that he's been going positive the last few weeks to be able to even bring it back, which means that he's starting to catch up on the mechanics because he's taking a break. He's starting to catch up on the actual understanding of the game. I mean, he dropped a 17-kill game against Mur, and that is against a former SI champion, and Slot, who has played and put up decent numbers in Europe. And also kept the 3 best Mir players, and we were looking at 2 Mir players when we were like still not really sure of what we were getting. So and like for trials that would have been. So it's not like they have bad players overall either. It's just that we are better.
It's important with Yas that last time he played before his short retirement that was before the ADS speed changes. So back then you would swing things hip fired, see an enemy, then press right click on your mouse and instantly ADS. We saw Yas for the first couple of days / weeks, swing everything, not ADS, and he would die before he could fight back. And it's like, that's just one of those small things that's changed in the meantime while he was gone. And he didn't understand that at first, right? He played the game like it used to be, but the game has evolved in that brief period of time. Now he's learned it. Now he's doing much better. So as Fabian said, individual performance, doing much better. He's a stable, he's a pillar, he has that experience. He's not going to shake at EWC. I doubt that. I really, really do. And Romantic has that young experience. You have the old guard with the new guard.
I was going to say that,
everyone working together.
I love that. A little bit of both end of the spectrum to balance out, as all things should be. So I like that. For those who want to know exactly where our boys will be playing, group stage, July 31st, August the 1st, we'll actually all be there. I get there a couple of days later. I have some Olympics things I need to go and watch. So unfortunately clashes. I'm very lucky being in France. These boys below will be there, obviously coaching, contenting, doing all those things, but we will be there. So do catch us. And then hopefully, given what we've heard, a sort of top 8, these dates as well, hopefully for the players themselves. Otherwise, you'll absolutely find us, doing things there as well. So these are the dates, probably pretty much, walking away with some kind of cash at some point. It's one of the biggest prize pools you can have in Siege. So if you are looking first place, it's 750,000 which is not a bad, it's not a bad payday. So for all of the boys, but I think as you're hearing Fabian, I'm pretty sure you don't care about what dollar sign is in front of any number there. You're probably looking for the experience that is to come for the boys. So I'm really glad they qualified. And then we can force them also in Real to do a bunch of content, which I know Fabian loves. We force him to be on the podcast here, so I know he loves doing content. Are you excited?
No.
He's never
the players
excited.
aren't either, man.
He's not excited.
The players are pretty good about it in the beginning, but if you make them do too much content, they're gonna turn anti-content as well.
I see this about it. I'm the coach. It's not my job to do content. It's not my time to be in the limelight. I tried it with G2 as well. I just wanted to not do interviews. I wanted to stay away because it's the players that should take all the praise in the end. I'm just there to help them in the shadows.
Okay, well, since talking about the shadows, let's talk about another thing that's in the shadow. This is a random segue, but trust me on it. The content that is lacking in the new season. There's a lot of shadows happening there. We'll bring up those patch notes. Which patch was it, Nick? This is a little trivia for you. Which
New
patch?
Blood. Operation New Blood.
Patch New Blood R6.
New Blood that we have is called the recruit that got added as an operator to the game. So you have Sentry and you have Striker, the attacker and the defender. And this was a thing where, Fabian, you and I had question marks, like how relevant, how viable is Recruit going to be in pro play? And we've only seen EWG qualifiers so far, but I don't think we've been surprised either negatively or positively. It's been like pretty much the expected outcome. A rare occasion, not all that much play so far.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see much difference from it either. I think it's a really boring change, honestly. I just think it doesn't bring anything. And when you don't bring anything special, it's not a fun thing to play or to bring. If you have an operator that actually gives you something, I mean, yeah, okay, it can give you a shield and a bulletproof. Great. Honestly, both of them are great utility. But then I'd rather bring something that is more niche that we can play around and make something important with. That's a bar or a shield or a bulletproof or barbed wire, depending on what operator you play. There's just more use to other operators, I would say, because they bring something that's more specific and it has a more of a team play aspect to it. This change is just boring, really boring.
It's a boring change. I will bring it up now. Hopefully I've got it here for you. Yes, I do. There we go. Operation New Blood. For those wondering what this whole recruit thing we're talking about, there's Striker on attack, which is recruit but on attack. And then there's Sentry on defense, obviously, being a defensive. And you get the choice of an M870, the Commando 9, which I enjoyed the Commando 9 coming back. I'm not going to lie. I thought that gun was good. It wasn't great, but it's good. And then the M4. And then, of course, you got Capital's LMG there if you wanted to. Yeah. So you can pick two gadgets, essentially. That's what has made this kind of a good pick for solo queuing and ranked. But when you're in a competitive environment, unless you're sending a player off to go do something really solo, which is very unusual, I will say the only sort of scenario I came up with, boys, and tell me if I'm wrong, and you know, the old brain of Siege and competitive was like on Clubhouse. You can have someone spawn like Jacuzzi side, they can bring EMPs, they can bring a hard breach charge, they can open Jacuzzi side themselves and like hold that rotate there themselves. But it was such a niche thought from me, like why bring a whole operator to do that? I'm not sure if it's really viable, but that was my only thought on attack with Striker, was maybe you could do something solo that way. Maybe a dirt pusher, Jacuzzi pusher, solo thing where you needed those EMPs and the hard breach charge yourself. Yes?
Yeah. I mean,
I
that's
agree.
my thinking, It's but then again, like primary gadgets are so strong in this game in the current meta, right? Like you can just pick just Maverick and you can open up any wall you would like, for example. Don't need DMPs. And same goes for defense, where why would you not want to play Fenrir or Asami or Leash, whichever, right? You could always bring them, or you can play two secondary gadgets. It's like,
it doesn't make any sense to bring it. I mean, as you say on Jacuzzi, but then then you can just bring Ace, which number one has a better gun, and then you play someone else on Dokaebe because you're gonna roam clear anyways. You play someone on Lion, and you have the EMP impacts, but you also have better guns and you also have better gadgets. So what's the point? Like there is very little point to it unless you love the M4 or you really, really want to go alone, like sneaking dirt, maybe like that would be something. But then you just need a breach charge because you shouldn't be sneaking in dirt alone on a basement attack, for example, because if you sneak in dirt and they haven't reinforced it and they're playing some breach now, well, you need both hard breach gadget and the EMP, but then how will you clear the corners because you don't have flashes and you don't have nades? But the same point is like, it opens up opportunities, but it also removes your effectiveness on other things. And I don't
agree.
think that removing the effectiveness is what you should be doing from yourself. Solo queue ranked, that's where it will thrive.
Yeah. A little bit of a niche pick competitively, maybe something that people will pick up in their ranked games. So take, everything with a pinch of salt or a handful of salt, guys, because with how I've been queuing ranked at the moment, I wouldn't be surprised to see a bunch of Striker and Sentry coming out in my games, I'm not going to lie. Balancing changes Fenrir, obviously that was a really necessary change. I also didn't like how if one of the F-nuts was destroyed, it just stopped your ability to activate, deactivate things. Like that whole thing didn't make sense to me in my head. I'm like, why give me so many and then 2 can't work? But then if one gets destroyed when it's open, then those other 2 become useless and nothing else can be opened. For me, it felt sloppy. So the change, have less now, and then 2 tickets to activate. You know in your head what you can and cannot do, rather than, if they destroy or if they don't destroy, maybe then I can activate and reactivate. It didn't make sense to me. Probably the big thing, I mean, Solus not being able to work in prep. Have you guys noticed anything in your scrims? Can you leak any scrim information? Like, has that affected things? Oh, surely it has. Come on.
I mean, not just scrims, but if you look at all of PSG Talon's games in Korea, at the Major in Manchester, there was a particular defender that got banned, every single game, Fabian, pretty much?
Yes.
Yeah, Solus. It was a permaban because you literally you get punished for playing the game during prep phase by droning into the building because solos have a very high pick rate in higher levels of ranked or competitive play, and then you can't get any drones in the building. So you just sit there AFK for 30 seconds waiting for something to happen. Round starts, good job. Now you gotta join the building from the very beginning. With the Solus nerf no longer working in the prep phase and the range is reduced and all these various things, Solus has seen the pick and ban rate go from 80+% to the bottom 10%. We almost never see her played or banned these days.
I'm happy.
Yes, very happy.
I'm not happy because it was my insta pick on Bank, because Bank is such a big map and there's so many pockets and
it's called a crutch.
It was my Bank crutch, so I'm a little sad. But that's okay. I'll go back to one of my old crutches, of course. Another big change was finally barbed wire kind of does something, because we've always criticized the fact that you can't hear people crouching through it or even running through it, ashes, etc. I have great hearing and I sometimes struggle to hear people moving through barbed wire. Different seasons, different sound as well, has really struggled. So the barbed wire change at the top level, boys. Fabian, is it doing anything? Are you thinking actually, maybe that barbed wire will actually, because the flinch sound of someone getting hurt, I believe, indicates players in nearby radius. Is this working?
A little bit, but not to a major extent. I mean, I still think, and I will remain with that opinion, that the old barbed wire that we had back in the days was much louder, and it also was much harder to destroy due to 3 punches, and that is what we need back. Not some 5 HP bullshit. Doesn't change anything. I mean, at the level we're at, you'll be headshotted anyways 60% of the time. So 5 damage here, 5 damage there, doesn't matter. It needs more sound and more punches, so it actually is a deterrence rather than anything else. Because now it's like we could put it in combination, or not in combination, in comparison to Fenrir or Melusi. Why do you play those guys? Well, because they guarantee that you hear or see that there's an opponent there. You could have an indirect nerf on them by buffing barbed wire, which in turn makes that a lot of other operators become viable because they have barbed wire that actually have impact.
Yep.
And I just don't see barbed wire having that impact right now, and it hasn't for years. But I don't know why the change was made, and I don't know why it's not being reverted.
It's a bit of a bait and switch, right? Because some people look at this change and go, "Oh, that seems like a pretty big deal," but in reality, if you walk through barbed wire, you only take 2 or 3 ticks, so 10 or 15 damage. A singular goo mine from Legion is 6 damage, plus you gotta pull it out, plus it makes this loud noise, right? And sure, you can shoot the goo mine, but you don't always do. You don't always see them. The barbed wire change is insignificant, like Fabian said. You get headshotted. Also, if a gun does 40 damage per bullet, 4, 8, 12, etc., that 5 or 15 damage is not gonna make you do 1 more or 1 less bullet worth of damage before you get a kill and injure. So it's completely insignificant.
So for me, I wasn't even caring about the 5 HP, because I was like, that's irrelevant to me.
Just the sound that
right?
it gives.
But the flinch sound was the one thing I've noticed with it. I
but the
hear
game is so
flinches now.
fast.
You're
You know,
right.
like
Once you're
and
through, you're
Ash
through.
sprints
Yes.
through that barbed wire,
Yeah.
you're gonna sit there and go, "What's that sound? Oh, somebody's taking damage." You turn around, you get shot, right? If you're not ready for the fight,
Sure.
by the time they're in the barbed wire, you're probably gonna be in a pretty bad spot regardless. Whereas again, I'd rather have Ella. I'd rather have
True.
Thorn. Also, you got the PG Talon skin on Thorn, right? You can get a little bit of action there going.
All right, I see what you're doing. All right.
When you win so much and do so many things, it feels
True.
like you're just giving so much to like one entity of people.
True.
And it was like, you're already winning, you're already getting all this stuff, like you're qualifying for everything. Like, why do you need more? You know, the one thing they did do for us was the pity invite that we didn't want in the first place, and that
So
we didn't
good.
really.
One of the
Yeah, but
best storylines ever I'll ever get. I will say though,
asked
they
you
should have
too.
done it. They should have given you something then, because little did they know one day you would be sitting in a podcast, old as shit, talking about patch notes and shit like that. So at some point you needed a little charm to, you know, sweeten the deal, a little cherry on top, I think.
I mean, you get some stuff when you win out. We got like a watch, and we
true,
got
I saw that.
a bomber jacket, a TSM that got a watch I saw as well.
I got 2 watches.
You got 2 watches, of
Ooh,
course,
one for each
and you got the
wrist.
bomber
Ayo.
jacket.
I have it right here, actually. It's a really nice one.
Actually,
I don't
can
know.
you show?
Oh, do you wear it?
I don't know if you can see it.
Yes,
Yep,
world
there it is.
champion.
Yeah.
Oh, look at an
and
exclusive
then,
look at this.
yeah, there's on the
naming
inside
rights
as
on it,
well.
or
Yeah, I'm gonna show you the inside as well because it's like a really nice mechanical watch. Like that, it's like custom made. I'll see if I can.
Has the
fix
whole
this.
background that moves. Yes.
Yeah, you can see it inside it, and then I don't know if you can see it, but there's text on this part here. There's
Yes.
text on it, and I think it just says Fabian, my name, and then G2. But
So
it's a
engraved
really cool
too.
watch.
That's actually
Yeah.
sick. That's actually okay. I'll give it to Uvi on that one.
That one is much better than the
fire.
first one, Nick. That's for sure.
yeah, the first one
Oh.
was the.
the
Yeah.
upgrade. Okay, they
It was
learned.
like I think it was like a greenish wristband,
it's
digital
a-
watch, or what
It's
was
an
it?
orange smartwatch.
It's orange. Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
I have not worn it. I'll be honest.
I have not worn it once.
but I have it in my box behind me. So
Somewhere
still
there.
Ooh, this puts us into another topic. Actually, ladies and gentlemen, there are little whispers, and I believe Pengu can maybe bring us into this. There are little whispers about maps, maybe some competitive
Whispers,
teams.
thoughts.
Where
I
are we
mean,
going?
so what we have right now is a very, very big pause between stage 1 and stage 2, which is like the logical point to make Pro League map pool changes, because usually the excuse, and this is a completely valid excuse, is in the past when you had 3 stages, you're running Pro League all the time, all year long. When are you going to make a significant change to the map pool that's not going to screw over teams, you know, for the upcoming major, upcoming season? Now you have a massive summer break. You can now make changes to the map pool. We have 9 maps. We have some that are not fan favorites. Let's say Cafe, for example, not
Yes.
super played in any region, not played a lot internationally. I think it's absolutely horrendous. So I would be super happy if they removed Canal, or not Canal, sorry, Cafe, and
Okay.
put something else in.
Yep.
But I am not the Pro League coach. That is Fabian. So Fabian, if you could remove X amount of maps, 1, 2, 3, 4, doesn't matter how many, which
Yeah.
would you take out? Which would you put in instead?
So there are a few maps that I would like to take out. I agree with you on Cafe. Cafe is
Thank you.
absolutely terrible. It's such a boring map to both play, look at,
Yep.
To
theory-wise.
watch.
It's just all boring.
Okay.
I think Oregon is the same. I think that
I
Oregon
agree. Thank you.
is way too default.
Oregon.
It's 4-2 split, and that's
Oregon.
it. And you lose. You win top 4, you win basement, and then you. So this is the way you win your 2 basement defenses. There's a 60 to 70% chance you win both your top floor defenses, and then there's a 20% chance that you win even 1 round on your off bomb sides. And all teams have the same, so all games go to overtime, and then you win in overtime. It's so boring. It is so straightforward.
Yep.
I also, like, personally, I dislike Chalet. I think it's way too simple of a map. Like it's not a big. It's not that big, and it's a lot of rappelling, and I don't think that is enjoyable gameplay. So I would remove that. I could even have an argument for Clubhouse being boring. Because it's the same steps. Everyone plays exactly the same. Everyone does 3-1, or you have a few specific rushes. So I think that there are 4 maps that I find very, very, very boring to have in the playlist. And the maps that I would look at to bring in would be, I would think that we should experience with Lair.
Yeah.
Or experiment with Lair. I think we should experiment with Favela. That one is probably the one that's out there. And the reason for it is it has so much vertical and it has like a lot of different entrances that I think that it could fit really well. Like there's a lot of different ways you can reshape the rooms, especially on the first floor. People tend to play only the top 2-floor bomb sites. I genuinely think that those are the 2 worst bomb sites. But the problem is obviously they're not playing competitively, so they don't have a solid setup for the first floor. If people play this map competitively, I think that it would be a lot more enjoyable to watch than it is anywhere else because people just don't know how to play it.
Well, that feels like a hot take, but yes.
Yeah.
Surprise take, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also say that Outback could be potentially added. I don't know what I really like it, but it's one that I would rather see it be tried than to stick on the old ones because I find them really goddamn boring.
Yep.
And there's one that also stands out. Emerald Plains. I think that Emerald Plains is a cool map. And I think that there's also a lot of stuff that you can do that haven't been explored on. And I think that there's so many things that you can kind of change around. The only one thing that you need to do is change the skylight around so you can't just pop drones on it and just hide them on the rafters in the top. And other than that, I think that the map can be experimented with a lot. Every single team in professional play will extend out from the bomb site. But what you do in ranked is that you just sit there and you box yourself in. And that's what you do in ranked. Therefore, the map sucks in ranked. But if you extend it and you actually have like a grid network of these are the players, you need to hold these areas to defend this bomb site. This is the second layer. I think that map will be also very enjoyable to play. Maybe change the window in library, the one that you bought in on the second floor, to a door. And all of a sudden you have 3 doors on that side. You have the staircases. You have windows that can cut off the staircases. I think that there's so many things that can go right on that map if it would be tried.
You know, I'm sure Ubisoft is going to watch this podcast at some point, and if you're looking for a man to talk about new content, and there at the bottom of the screen, he's not smiling, but I'm sure he'll smile for you for a certain amount of cash. So
the way I see it is that like if they contacted the people that know and understand how to build up maps in terms of like imagine that they presented me with a test client that said this is the new map, make setups on it as much as you'd like. I could make 100 different setups. Like before the Beast Coast game in Manchester, right? We were we had actually gotten Clubhouse as one of our permabans in the major. And obviously everyone saw that we banned Cafe every game, so that wasn't a surprise. We're not doing that for UVC. But if you saw that, we always ban Clubhouse. And the reason for that is because we had terrible results on European Clubhouse practices. The day before the Beast Coast game, we took Clubhouse and put it as #1 priority for this game. Because Beast Coast don't like it, and they haven't seen us do it. And I remade every single strat precisely to match into the playstyle that Beast Coast played. And we played 2 maps the night before against the European Tier 3 team. The first one was a 6-6 with our old strats. During that one, when we went over to attack, I was sitting there remaking every single defense. We played them again on the same map just immediately after 11 won them.
I agree. Look, I don't know how much it takes to change things, but I would assume surely to add and move a couple of props and maybe walls in some design aspect.
Extend
surely,
one.
Can't hurt. Can't be that difficult to do.
One of the only issues that I have with Pro League right now, for example, skyscraper defense, consulate defense, is that you will always start on defense whenever possible.
Yes.
You might not ever pick the map yourself because you can't choose the starting side of defense. And then you expect that 4-2, 5-1 And that's where a new tournament in NA, like is it called E3, Element 3?
Yep.
They are trying out the new rule change where you play 3-round defense, 3-round attack, 3-round defense, 3-round attack, and that will actually nullify maps that are super favorable to a singular side because you can't just go up 5-1, 6-0, or 4-2. And I think that would solve my issues with a map like Skyscraper, for example.
Yes, I'm so glad you brought this up.
I would like to see it.
I'm happy if we end the podcast on this 333 topic because this is one of the hottest topics that have come up for me recently. I don't know if Fabian cares just yet because you're thinking about the here and now, right? You're not really thinking about what if they change this in the future. I got to think about the here and now. Also, quick addition, Fortress comp. Saying
definitely could be. Definitely could be.
What?
I think that map is underrated.
Fortress is fire.
I think it's underrated.
It's a bunch of 90-degree hallways with double angles. You're gonna feel like
flush it, bro.
Oh man. I mean, okay, if Monty is not banned, I can play Fortress as a happy
Okay.
camper. But if Monty is banned, I'm just gonna alt
It's
F4.
rough.
Like I'm
Yeah.
Underrated.
Yeah, it's rough.
Underrated map.
Yeah.
Also underrated system. I screamed
Color
about
palette
it.
sucks.
Yeah,
You know,
okay,
the colors
they
are
can
terrible.
fix
Half the
that.
skins blend in.
Nick, they
You
can
can- okay.
Hereford
fix
back.
it.
No,
Old Hereford back.
Old Hereford.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
whoa, not this. Big X.
yeah, the old one.
Presidential plane, maybe a tick.
Make a
I think
terminal.
yacht.
Yacht
Rework. I think.
You know
essential.
what? If they did a yacht rework,
It's amazing. It's the best map in the game. It's the best map we've ever had. I
I'm not
qualified
gonna lie
my
to
first
you.
season of Pro League to
Oh, yeah,
only
you played it.
Yeah,
I never played in Pro League ever. I never.
This was in qualifiers for Pro League. We played against Meepy and Lackey's team.
Wow.
Yeah.
Me and KS, and it was when you won the game. I think you won the game at 5 rounds. Was it 4 rounds?
I
Might
think
have
it was
been
4.
It
Yeah.
might have been.
And I dropped a 14 bomb on yacht.
Man
and
says he wasn't a gunner, by the way.
I mean, I wasn't Ash Jaeger main when the game came out, and we had been spreading this rumor that we were really, 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 really good on yacht. We never practiced it, not a single time. And everyone banned it against us because we kept talking about how good of a map it was. So we never had to play it. And then they called us out on it on the last match in the qualifier. Literally, win or lose, either you go in or you don't. And we just made shit up on the go. And I ran around with Jaeger and dropped a 14 bomb, and that was it. Game over. Good night.
That's incredible.
Well, I agree with Yacht. I also agree with the 333.
I'm not saying I would want this, but I just thought about something. You
Mm-hmm.
could, in theory, also have coaches involved with this, where I don't think we should have like a coach timeout because that would slow down the broadcast and slow down the pacing for viewers, and it would kind of kill the speed of things. But
Mm-hmm.
let's say whenever you go, so you play 3 rounds on one side and you go side swap. The first round on the swap, the coach can be a part of the operator pick phase and prep phase of that round as well.
Oh.
That way you have a built-in coach input for counter strategy.
Mhm.
I'm not a fan of coaches being a sixth voice in teams and
Right.
IGLing and stuff, so I'm not really super into this as a concept, but just you have things you could play around with if you want to get crazy with it by doing that 3-3 system,
Mhm.
by either including those coaches or changing up the pace, for example.
Or you make
Just
it
a
so that the timeout is included in that you get the you allow the coach to
yeah.
speak in one prep phase
Yeah.
throughout the game. Like the operator pick phase. That means the timeout is slightly longer because you
Yeah.
get the operator pick phase and they can just wait with like selecting the operator. Because if you select all 5 operators immediately, it just shoves you into prep phase. But if you
Yeah.
wait with one, you get an additional time. So
Yeah.
it can be a little bit mixed there. But I also think that the 3-3, it needs to make it so that the bomb sites are blocked even though you change side. Even if
Okay.
like say that you shouldn't be able to play
Ah.
Oregon, basement, top floor, and then if you lose top floor, you get to play top floor again.
Uh-huh.
Because then when you go over, then when you have the 3 next defenses, you'll go basement again because it's unlocked.
Yeah.
And then you'll go
Okay.
top floor one more time, and that's not good. It's not good to only see basement and top floor because it will make it too defender favorite, even if you go attack in between. And I also think that it's great for LAN, but I think it's terrible for online. And the reason I think it's terrible for online is that if you have a very good analyst, they will be able to sit there and break down those 3 rounds whilst you're playing defense, because you can look at the opponent's defense. That's the hard side. Attack is the hard side. So if you have a good analyst, during those 3 rounds you're defending, they can sit there and break down everything. But they don't have time to do that when you play all your attacks in a row.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. So
interesting.
would we not see better gameplay?
But it's not a good thing that the analyst is able to sit there and break down what's up the entire team, because we saw when Twister went in and talked to the players, right? In Europe League last stage. Or was it last? It was last stage. I think it was playoffs. That is one way to talk to your players. Every other team that has a little bit of thinking, and if you're a critical thinker at home as well, you'll realize they're WhatsApping each other. Their phone is right here in front of the monitor. They can WhatsApp each other. Obviously, nobody sees it, so it is breaking the rules, but it's not something that people see, and not something that they can really charge you for, because nobody knows. Lucky for me and lucky for Nick, he knows we don't have a WhatsApp group, so I can't do it.
It's true.
And also, I'm a heavy proponent against it because I think that it's the in-game leader's job to solve problems during the game. I'm very heavy on that because I know that when I was playing, if I got too much shit coming from the sides, I wouldn't be solving the problems myself. And I had to solve them because if I wanted to make it a deep run, I would have to. But at the same time, that okay, but those teams that don't care about that, they just want to get to the event, or they just want to learn, like they just want to win at the local level. Well, they can just fucking text as much as they want to. They can text whatever they want.
Yep.
And if you have those 3 rounds, you can have a WhatsApp message from the analyst that says, these are the attacks, and this is how we need to attack it. These are the gadgets, and these are the operators we need, blah, blah, blah. And then you have it all on paper in front of you. And that is absolutely dog shit for the competitive integrity.
That's a good point. I never think about it.
Yeah, from a LAN perspective, I'm thinking from a full competitive integrity, like no one's dogging things behind the scenes kind of thing. So I'm thinking from the halo on the head angel, and you're like, no, this is the reality. And I'm like, that's why I'm sitting here. I was shocked because I'd not heard about this whole texting. And of course, logically, of course, if you can't see it on the camera, of course it can be done. Admins can't see. So you're right. I can't believe I never thought about it. Naivety, ignorance in me there. But okay. If everyone had a halo on top, Fabian, if everyone was an angel.
That would be fine.
Okay.
But that's not the reality, unfortunately.
Okay.
I hear way too many stories about teams having their coaches in game lead them. They're sitting there on Discord at the same time as they're in TeamSpeak, but they have TeamSpeak up on the other monitor. So it looks, you know, like you can have the TeamSpeak and you can see that they're muted, but then they're all sitting in Discord and streaming. And in Discord, they're not like the only one, like they only muted their microphones. So then the coaches can see all 5 POVs, and they can actually in-game lead through Discord while it looks like they're not talking because they're muted in TeamSpeak. I hear all of these sort of stories, and it's all just fucking dumb as shit. But that's how people can make it to events sometimes. Like teams can make it to event, and then they completely look terrible at the event because they lose their in-game leader.
Yeah.
Because their in-game leader actually isn't their in-game leader, it's their coach.
I feel like I'm having my eyes open here. I feel like I'm just having this epitome of realization of the things that might happen in comp now. I mean, maybe it did happen back then, but I'm just thinking now,
it's
like,
always
of
happened,
course.
It's always happened, yeah.
We back when we were, Fabian and I were both playing on the same team of G2, we would check the MOS files of some of our opponents sometimes, because you always do to see what's happening, and sometimes they leak strats on accident and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I did it, I'll have to admit.
Exactly.
The leak strats on the other monitor,
and sometimes you would see a player who had the Discord in-game overlay on, and you'd see their coach lit up green on every single photo that you check, and it's like, the coach is not supposed to be talking, but there were no admins in the Discord call back then. Then admins started joining Discord calls. Then people started doing Fabian said, you have Discord and TeamSpeak, and the admins think no one's talking, but they actually are. Now you have coaches being present on camera doing it, but then you have your analyst in another room doing it instead. So there's always another way around it. And as Fabian said, if you want to be the best, this has to come from the players themselves, because at LAN, in a grand finals, you cannot get this external help. You are cheating yourself. However, by cheating the system this way, you are taking spots from teams who do better than you on LAN because you're better online.
Yeah.
So it's and tough. It also screws over proper in-game leaders, because usually in-game leaders have too much to think about, and therefore they aren't able to frag. So instead, you put 5 fraggers in a team. G2, and it doesn't work. Hey, I'm not talking about the current G2. I'm talking about the one when I was basically had I asked to leave, but it was a freezing out sort of situation. So
I assumed it went like that. So yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, half of the players that are around these days weren't good enough to compete back in those days. So
yeah. I mean, think about this, right? Back in the day, you had 2 new operators and 1 new map every 3rd month or third to 4th month of Pro League. The amount of time and effort you had to put into just learning new things and innovating, being the first to break the meta, figuring out maps. Then today you have pro players who are full-time employed, by the way, and good salaries go, oh my god, 9 map pool, too much work. 1 new map in 2 years, too much work. 1 new operator in 6 months, oh my god, this is bro. It's like, come on. We didn't have bans back when Lion came out. We just had to deal with it. Blackbeard, Ella, new maps all the time. You had to overcome and adapt to those situations. So I think there's a lot of creativity missing because you can't even express it because there's not content really being used to do so. That's also why, again, bring in new maps to the map pool to force creativity. Which teams are going to go out there and say, we're going to learn this map, break this map, and create the meta that people will play, basically.
I agree. Well, hopefully, technical savviness. There we go. We're back in the 3 screen. I have thoroughly enjoyed this podcast. It's the first episode, so of course, in natural fashion, all of us old farts are accidentally going to go over the usual time we would want for a podcast like this. But we had the beautiful special guest Fabian with us, so of course we're going to go over time a little bit. We want to hear everything he had to say. This podcast will be every month. A reminder, if you are only watching segments of the podcast, it's every month. So there'll be a pack load of information that we're going to bring you every month, depending on what's going on in the game, around the game, tournament-wise. Yeah, we're going to be a little bit more esports and, high-level siege inclined, but that doesn't matter. So I think everyone will be happy. Have we missed any topics? Fabian, Pengu, Nick, anything that you guys want to add in that you think we've missed thus far?
No, I'm just happy it's over. I've done the one podcast I have to. I mean, if they're doing good enough in terms of reactions to it and stuff, who knows? Maybe I'll be back.
Okay.
If not, then I'm happy I'll never have to see you guys again.
You're going to see
We're
us
literally
very soon.
boot camping in 2 weeks.
This man's going to close his eyes every time you come in the room. Nick, anything else you want to add, especially with EWC coming up? We're going to release this right before EWC, so you'll be hearing this. Again, you will see us all there in some capacity, some way, shape, or form. Fabian's hoping in zero content capacity. We will draw him in for content. You will be able to meet and greet him. Don't worry, we're forcing him. He says no, I say yes. Trust me, he has no choice. Nick will be there in multiple different capacities. Anything you want to tell the viewers out there for what's upcoming for you guys?
No, not in particular. Just as always, is a classic. Thank you for the support. We started this with a goal of maybe making a major, maybe taking some international competition, bridging the gap between the Western and Eastern audiences in Siege, with Korea and Europe, for example, here. So I'm really proud of what Fabian and the boys have done, watching them play and seeing them improve in what they've accomplished so far. And I would like to believe this is very much the beginning. That is like, Manchester into EWC, stage 2, invitationals, and then maybe make a splash somewhere along the way. And hopefully the people that bought into this idea and support from the beginning, they'll get that same reward and realization sometimes, saying this was such a cool journey to be a part of by watching these guys and their progression so far throughout the years.
Well, hopefully the podcast will be part of that. And Fabian, you're always welcome to come back and join us if you want to talk some smack, enlighten my naive and ignorant mind to what's happening in Pro League behind the scenes, whether it's dirty, dark tactics or it's nice, clean things. And when the map changes come in, please do join us again on the podcast. We'd love to hear your insights on that. But thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you guys next month. And for those wondering where you're going to be, I don't know. I assume YouTube, I assume Twitter, PSG Talon R6 on Twitter. Follow there, and I'm sure we will post everything there. But otherwise, I'll catch you guys next episode. Bye.
Bye.